pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes.
I saw no corrections.
I didn't either. I'll make the motion. We approve the minutes from April 5th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 2 is consideration and possible approval of donation to the graduation spectacular. We have a couple folks who'd like to address that. You would just state your name.
Thank you. It's Jared and Paige Haddock. So we're just here because we'll be helping to represent and help collecting all the donations on behalf of Grad Spec this year. So just to be clear, what has happened is the school board has actually taken over, thankfully, graduation spectacular, so that we have a better umbrella and insurance, which we desperately need. And so basically we want to keep the engine going because the whole purpose of Grad Spec was to help provide a safe place for kids on graduation night, helping to limit the drunk driving and possible accidents, which is what created the whole purpose of a Grad Spec in the past. They've been trying to carry that tradition on for 20 plus years. And so all of us are made up of volunteers that are willing to go there and put some time in to kind of bring the party to Carbon County. And anyway, I think it's been a worthwhile event. So this year we've got a lot of new additions and activities we have planned. And we, first of all, want to thank you for your support in years past, and particularly in helping to open up the convention center, which we could use this year. Well, it's a game changer on the venue for what we're trying to do. They normally have had around 200 years ago, 200 or so students, and now they've got over about 500 is what they've been hitting every year in the last year or two since we changed things up a bit, involve more of the community. Do you have any other questions? Or
Well, I appreciate you guys coming out, touring the facilities. Glad that the county can help out and use the event center. And did you guys settle on the theme? Is it going to be the camping? Did we get a name for it, or
Adventure. Yeah.
It's adventure, but
camp adventure?
Get ready
Yeah.
for an adventure.
Yeah, great.
I don't think there'll be any actual camping going on per se. Let's hope not. But anyway, they've got a lot of different adventures that they've got planned, and they're kind of around the camping theme. So, you know, the s'mores and activities like that. So
Lots of fun games and entertainment. There's a magician coming who's been on Good Morning America, and just lots of fun dancing, prizes. We're gonna bring in a big huge screen,
Jumbotron.
And we're gonna have some live cameras so that the kids can see them on, and then it'll allow us to have the activities, because there's different activities in different parts of the building, and so that they can see, and then they can have a schedule and things like that. So it'll be good. We're bringing our local DJ and things like that to add to bring. So hopefully the kids will be excited. There's food and fun and friends. So hopefully that'll bring them out. So.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't have any questions. I think it's a very worthwhile activity for kids in the community, so I'm supportive.
Same here. It's been great. I've been able to participate as far as helping chaperone and do different things at different grad specs, and I think it's a very safe, good event for our youth. I think in years past, Commissioner Martinez confirmed it that we've given 500, and it would be my motion that we continue our donation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Yep,
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item number 3 is legislative changes in the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. Craig Buttars and Kelly, is it Pehrson?
Yes.
Commissioner.
Well, it's good to be here with you today. We've got a slide presentation we'll just pull up real quick. But what we're doing is visiting with all of the county councils and commissions throughout the state. And just to help, well, there are a lot of new commissioners, you probably know that, not here, but there are a lot of new commissioners throughout the state now. So we're getting to know them and also trying to inform our county governments about recent changes in the state legislature and in the Department of Agriculture. And I guess it's just kind of a crops and cows tour, and we are bringing you information that specific to your county that you might not be aware of. So, okay, it's ready. Okay. Okay, is there any way we can turn the lights? There you go.
All you have to do is ask.
That's great.
It's magic in here.
And can you see it on your screen?
Yes,
They're
thank
great. Okay, you've got the best technology here for you. So.
Good staff, good help.
But the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food actually began in 1896 when the legislature formed the Board of Horticulture for the state of Utah. And in 1921, we were combined with other agencies to form the Department of Agriculture. And now we're called the Department of Agriculture and Food to help tie agriculture to food for people that might not be familiar with where their food comes from. So some of the things that we do, we have general stewardship over the agriculture in the state. And then of course we do inspections. I notice you have an office for the Department of Agriculture right here in your building, and we appreciate that. We also regulate. We are a service organization, but we also regulate. And so, you know, it's important for us to help the consumers know what their food products are, and give them confidence, consumers confidence in that their food products are safe, and that's one of the things we do. We also have rulemaking authority. When the legislature passes a law, it's our responsibility to make rules to administer that law. We do loan assistance through our Agricultural Resource Development Loan Program, and we also work with pest and disease control and marketing and economic development. So as far as divisions, we have 10 different divisions. You can see there, I won't go through all of them, but our most recent is the Grazing Improvement Program, and something you might not be aware of, but we do oversee the Medical Cannabis and Industrial Hemp Program in the state. And we do a lot of marketing and economic development. We'll talk about those things in our presentation here today. So. Okay, Kelly's going to just go over our strategic goals.
Thanks, commissioners, for having us. It's great to be in Price. Price plays has a big part in my life. I graduated from CU back in the day, so I apologize for any ruckus I provided when I was here, but it was a good time. And I'm originally from Monticello, so I've driven through Price millions of times to back and forth to Salt Lake. But when Commissioner Buttars came on board, we wanted to put together a strategic plan. It had been a long time since the Department of Ag had a good strategic plan. And the way we put this together is we went throughout the state of Utah and met with lots of ag producers, stakeholders, elected officials, and we wanted to hear their vision for agriculture in their areas, and did a SWOT analysis in their area as well, and what they saw for agriculture in the future. And it helped us come up with some goals as a department, but also helped us prepare for the legislative season and what things that we wanted to go through and get funding for to help accomplish these goals. And I'll go through these goals real quick. So the first one is agri-structure. We call agriculture anything to do with food and meat processing, vegetable and fruit processing. As you know, if you want to get your cow harvested right now locally, you're a year and a half out. And that's something that we need to fix. Most producers can't feed their cattle an extra year and a half before they butcher them. And so we created some programs that we'll talk about later of how to fix that and hopefully accomplish more harvesting in the state. Also, you may know that just south of Nephi, dirt close to Mills, this session they got $8 million for what's called an agri-park. And they're going to hopefully put all the infrastructure together, water, sewer, and hopefully entice more processing in the state. Hopefully not as big as like JBS or those big plants, but something that will help with the local ag producers. And so we're excited about the agri-park. They're doing feasibility studies now to see if there's water and the sewer will work. So we have good hopes of that. Agriculture workforce, one of the struggles in agriculture is the average age of a producer right now is 65 years old. We got to find ways to entice new farmers to get into the industry. And the only way we can do that is make it profitable and something that they can make a living off of. And as a department, we got to find ways to, maybe it's less regulation or working with our federal legislation to make sure commodity prices stay high. So we'll continue to find ways to make it profitable and get new producers in the industry. Ag land preservation. I was even amazed when we went to rural areas that this was something on their mind, that a lot of ag land is being developed. We just got back from Israel, and it was interesting to see how Israel built in the hills and left their ag land open. And I think in Utah, mostly in the Wasatch Front, we've done the opposite. We've built and developed all the good ag land, and I feel like someday we are going to regret that. And we have a program that we want to talk to you about on ways to preserve ag land. The food supply chain. It was very scary to go to the grocery store during COVID and see the grocery stores empty. But it also brought to light how important food and agriculture is as well. And we got to find ways in Utah to be more self-reliant and find more people again to get into the industry and find good products that we can sell locally. And we'll continue to work on that as well. Education. We work with Farm Bureau a lot with what's called Ag in the Classroom, where they help teach the youth about where food comes from. It's sad to see that some of our kids think that food is grown in the grocery store. It's not where it is, right? And so we will continue to find ways to educate and also find other ways for kids to get into agriculture, not just on a tractor or cattle. Or is this session or 2 sessions ago, we got a vet school at Utah State University. And we all know the shortage of vets throughout the state. And this session, we got $2.5 million to pay loans back for those that want to go into vet school. So if someone wants to become a vet and work in rural area for 5 years, we'll pay up to $100,000 of their loan back. So we're excited about this program. And just so you know, we'll send you links to all these programs so that you have them and you can share them with your constituents as well. Customer service. Again, we saw the Department of Ag office just here. We have a lot of employees that work for the Department of Ag here in Carbon County. And we want to make sure that they are partners with our ag producers. Like Commissioner said, we regulate and promote agriculture. So we're the good cop and the bad cop. But we want to make sure that we are providing the best customer service to our producers to keep bringing them hope and also to make sure we're not over-regulating them. So if they're not, please reach out to us and we'll make sure that they're providing the best customer service to the producers in your county.
So I'll just cover some of the benefits of agriculture in the state, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but of course we provide food, fiber for humans, but also we provide animal feed through growing alfalfa and other hay products. Agriculture strengthens local food security, like we've already mentioned. It creates rural jobs, provides conservation of open space and preservation of open space. It's a large economic driver in rural areas, as I'm sure you're well aware, and agriculture provides water and resources for wildlife, and that's something maybe we haven't considered much before, but our agricultural irrigation systems do provide a lot of water for wildlife and other resources. So at a glance, here in Carbon County, you have about almost $6.5 million of market value ag products are sold annually. And this data is 2017 data from the USDA Agriculture Reporting Services. And so in addition, 309 farms, over 230, almost 231 acres of farmland. The average farm size is 747 acres, and of those acres of farmland, 9,253 are irrigated acres. And you're pretty much in line with the rest of the state. 95% of the farms in Carbon County are family farms. So you can see there your crop income is 36% of that total income, and from farm receipts, and livestock is 64%. As far as ranking in the state, you rank 11th for sheep, goats, wool. I would imagine most of this is for your sheep and your wool growers. 15th for nursery, greenhouse, floriculture, and sod. And just some quick facts there. Over $2.3 million in total crop sales, and over $4 million in livestock, poultry, and other animal product sales. That's kind of how that divides up. 37% of the farms in Carbon County are new and beginning farmers or have military service. And so that's reported in the agriculture statistics. We're going to talk a little bit about now, and Kelly will cover our food security processing grant, and we'll talk about all four of these different programs.
So with the strategic goals that I talked to you about, this helped us create some programs and funding available to help accomplish those goals. And one of those was a pilot program that we started last year. In the last session, we got what's called the Food Security Processing Grant. And we got a pilot program established, and they gave us $1 million for that program. And with that $1 million, there were 79 applicants, over 14 million in requests. And so that tells you the demand out there, and the willingness to try to process more. So what it is any processor that can do more and needs more equipment to do more, or needs refrigeration to do more, that's eligible for the grant. And it's a non-matching grant, up to $200,000 is the cap. And we try to do the best return on investment on that first $1 million. And you can see in the map of some of the where we funded those that first $1 million. And this session we got $1 million more. We continue to ask for more, but we're excited that they continue to give us some funding. But we need your help spreading the word. So May 1st will be when we open up the application period until the end of May. And then the ranking committee will look at it starting June 1st. And then we'll award and fund them July of this year. So it's a great start to help us fix that agri-structure and reach that goal of more processing in the state. We'll talk about the water optimization.
Mother Nature is an extremely hard taskmaster. The hardest boss that anybody could ever have, because there's no mercy. Probably half of my time is spent trying to use the water as efficiently as possible. You lose a few $100,000 year after year, you know, it's a tough goal.
We've had more dry years than we've had wet years, and I think that's become the norm.
The land is drier, the rangeland is drier. Springs that we could usually count on being there are drying up. So it's a scary time.
The department right now is in the process of working through our agricultural water optimization program, and this is a way that we can help farmers and ranchers use their water more efficiently. If the opportunity is presented, farmers and ranchers want to do better with the resources that they have.
They're reaching out to producers, they're reaching out to other individuals saying, hey, look, here's what we're up against, here's what we're facing. How can we overcome this? The Department of Ag is always there backing you up.
Change and conservation and best practices are changing and evolving, and I am very willing to evolve with them. With the help of UDAF and NRCS, we've been able to adapt those practices more quickly.
With the limited availability of water, by increasing the efficiency, even on these drought years, we may be able to farm nearly all of our acres. And so without some help from the state, I wouldn't be able to do this.
No one knows better than us the finite resources that we have here. So I don't think there's anyone that could care more about the land and its health and the balance than the people that are living on it and working on it. It's the lifeblood. We all understand that water is our lifeblood. We do our best to conserve it and to use it wisely, because without it, we're nothing.
I think this video does a pretty good job of explaining that program, but the water optimization program, let's see, here we go, is initially it started in 2019 with a $3 million appropriation from the legislature. And since that time, we've had another $3 million appropriation. And the 2022 session, there was $70 million appropriated to this program from ARPA funds. And so over these past 4 years, we have put on the ground $50 million in projects across 276 projects with a projected water savings of 172,847 acre feet. And so the next round is currently open. We just opened that this week. And so it will be mid-April through, I think, for 3 weeks that they're going to leave the application process open. And so we just like you to try and spread the word about this program. It's been very successful in helping farmers, save water and maximize the potential for every drop of water that they get. So the next program is the Ag Stress Assistance Program. I'd like to just give you kind of little information on that. We have partnered with the USU Extension Ag Wellness Program, and this program is for those who are most at risk for mental health issues. And we know that agriculture is a stressful lifestyle. It's a stressful occupation. And so what this program does is provide a $2,000 voucher for mental health care for farmers and ranchers and their families that can be used through Intermountain Health Care. And so we also train producers on how that they can recognize neighbors or friends or family members who might be having mental health issues, and so that they can know how to help them. And we also train for the 988 crisis line responders statewide. The next video we've got is talking about the working farmer.
The preservation of ag land is very important. As we go and look at the acreage that is being developed right now, much of it is acreage that I never thought I would see developed in my lifetime. A lot of farmers go out there and they talk about the development, and they say, those houses are the last crop that is ever going to be planted out there on that property.
When you have a place that has importance like this, you kind of want to have it last, and conservation easements are the way to do it.
conservation easement is essentially an agreement between a private landowner and a nonprofit or a state or a federal agency to limit the amount of development that takes place on a piece of property. Essentially what you're doing is you are purchasing the rights to develop on that piece of property.
Working with the state and with the Nature Conservancy with our easement, we're really helping to protect a massive area of land that's critical for winter range, for migratory corridors, and it's really a special thing to know, my kid can come back after I'm gone and be like, oh wow, this is still the same, it still looks the same.
There isn't an inch on my either side that I haven't gathered a rock up, turned over the soil, so instead of being an investment, it now becomes part of my soul.
The protection of land utilized for agricultural production is one of the major goals that we have at the Department of Agriculture and Food. And if we go in and preserve that land and we utilize it for the production of food and for other resources, we become sustainable as a state.
Deciding to do a conservation easement on our ground was kind of a tough decision. I mean, we looked at it and, the money situation is very different from whether you sell your ground or whether you put it into a conservation easement. And at the end of the day, we had to kind of look ourselves in the mirror and say, what's more important, our heritage, who we are, what we love doing, or money? And ultimately we decided that, it was worth the sacrifice to give up a little bit to be able to have the opportunity to do what we love.
Even people in the community, as they come, they know now that this property is going to remain open, that it will never be built on, and what a great legacy to leave our community.
So the Lee Ray McAllister Fund has been with the state since 1992, but this last session, the legislation put the Lee Ray McAllister Fund into the Department of Ag and have now called it the Lee Ray McAllister Working Farm and Ranch Protection Fund. And they gave us funding for 3 full-time employees and $3 million one-time funding. But as the video explained, this is a voluntary program. And every easement's different. It just depends on the contract. It stays in private ownership, and if they want to sell it, they can sell it, but it will stay ag land forever. And we're excited about this program and what it can do to help preserve ag land as part of one of our strategic goals. So the one thing that affects you guys is House Bill 371. What this is when ag land is purchased, this rollback taxes that buyer has to pay, 20% of that rollback taxes has to be used for an easement in your county or what you can do. So I don't know if you're set up to do easements, but we hope that you'll work with our department, with those employees that we hire, and we'll use that money and our $3 million and match it with federal funds. So once we get those employees established, we'll make sure they get in front of you and find ways to maximize your 20% as well, or your will. Like you said, again, it's got to be. I believe it has to be food. They have to produce food on that land, right, to be eligible for an easement. So we're excited about this program. I don't know if you have questions about it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If not, we'll finish the presentation.
All right, we'll just wrap up. We appreciate your time again, but what we hope that we presented to you that you can take away is that we feel that agriculture is very important in the state, and we hope that as a commission you'll work with your municipalities to pass ordinances and funding opportunities for individuals to be successful, and let us know ways that we can assist you in helping farmers and ranchers to be successful here. So thank you for your time, and once again, we appreciate being here with you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Happy to answer any questions, but we'll head back to the Big Valley, I guess. Thank you. Thanks again.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Get their stuff cleaned up here and get the lights back on. Appreciate Commissioner Buttars and Kelly coming down and educating us a little bit on that and the new things coming from the state. So we'll move on to item number 4, which is the discussion regarding the Octagon Tower lease, Ford Ridge. Mr. Barry Horsley, address.
Commissioners, I don't have a finished contract for you to approve tonight. What I wanted to propose to you is that Octagon Tower, who currently leases a plot of land from us on top of Ford Ridge, contacted us. They'd like to extend and sign a new long-term lease with new terms on it so that they can look at investments of capital improvements on top of their tower. So in order for them to do that, they need a new long-term lease. After discussion with them, they've proposed a few options to us as far as doing a month-to-month or annual lease on up to a 50 or 99-year lease. And so those are kind of the options that we've done. I wanted to get input from you on kind of which option the county would like to go for. I have no objections to the lease. They've been a great partner. It's land that is suitable for the use it's being used for. But as far as using a option to negotiate the rest of the lease, we needed this decided on before we proceed with that.
So what we have are basically 3 options, and I'll just go ahead and read those. So option number 1 would be a simple extension, $12,000 per year for 40 years, escalating at 15% every term, which every term is 5 years. Option number 2 would be a shorter term, $248,000 for a 50-year easement. And option 3 is $360,000 for a 99-year easement.
And both option 2 and 3 would be a lump sum upfront payment.
So the only real thought I have here is I don't know that it's wise that we go long-term lease unless we had a project that we were looking to get some funds for right up. I don't know that it's good that we tie that up or not, just my personal thoughts. Input you guys have?
Yes, there was some discussion about using some of this money to do the radio replacements that we're forced into.
Yeah, so aside from that, there's a project to migrate our radio usage with public safety to align with the rest of the state with a P25 project that's kind of a federal standard. In order to do that, it would require replacing every radio that public safety uses, sheriff's office, EMS, and also fire departments will be doing that as well. The cost to the county right now of unbudgeted funds in order to do that, in order to make use of some funding that the state has made, the county would be looking at a bill at about approximately $150,000.
Any thoughts or discussion points on this?
My own thoughts, like I said, the radio project was unbudgeted, it was unknown, it was not aware of, so it is a lump sum that was unbudgeted, unexpected for, so this would provide some funding to take care of that $150,000, but I also understand the terms of the contract as well.
So maybe to explain where this is, the footprint, what would be involved with it, for those that may not know.
Sure. So they currently have a tower that is constructed on top of Ford Ridge, Beaver Mountain, as it's also known, which is just south of the top of Price Canyon. And so this tower resides next to our building that is on Ford Ridge. So their tower, it's approximately 25 by 25 feet. It sits on this piece of land. They then route in cabling into our building that's handled through a separate lease. So we have a lease through the building as well that they pay on as well. But this is just for the plot of land for that tower to remain on our property.
And are these the only folks that pay into the communications?
No, so we lease space to a number of entities. This is one that leases ground from us for communication purposes. Most of the others lease what we call rack space inside of the building. But this particular one is a ground lease. We are investigating other ground leases on a site called Black Hawk, which is above the old power plant. So we'd be looking at ground leases up there as well. So it's a common practice for people who own prime real estate on mountaintops to lease that to communication companies, mostly because one, it's a prime location, and two, the FCC kind of encourages joint locations like that.
So option one, obviously, if you didn't have an immediate need, would generate more revenue over, say, a 50 or 90-year term, 99-year term. We do have the immediate need, as we've said, for law enforcement and for the fire departments and others for the new radio system. So I'm kind of open, whichever thoughts that we have on this.
Yeah, I think I would be open to the 50-year lease to try to get enough money in to take care of this radio purchase that we were going to have to make.
And I'm open to that as well. I wonder, as technology improves and changes, do you see that there'll be, and I know I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball, but do you see a need for these towers 50 years from now?
I do. Aside from, so with the coming of 5G technology, it changes the model from large mountaintop towers to closer and more in-town towers. I think that'll still hold a precedence as we move forward with other technologies, that it'll probably become more dotted, if you will, on the earth with mesh technology. However, those mountaintops still cover a large, vast area that cell phone providers and other carriers need to cover. This particular location covers a lot of Highway 6, Schofield Valley, just areas where I don't see it feasible for them to build multiple other towers along the roadways. Of course, you could always go with the Elon Musk model and shoot to the satellites, but not everybody can do that either. So.
And when does the current agreement end?
I apologize. I looked. It's approximately 2 to 3 years from now.
Not this year.
Correct.
Or this month. Or,
yeah.
So we have time to consider this if needed, or we could make a motion tonight, or?
Correct.
Okay. It would be better to have a motion, or it would be better for the company to know what our taste is moving forward, so infrastructure dollars could be spent on this location if needed. Is that correct?
Correct. And in the county's interest, the more cell phone companies develop, obviously there's more personal property tax that comes into the county as well. I will give you a different timeline back to the radio discussion. The funding that's available for the state that subsidizes those radio replacements ends in June. So that's a different timeline. But if we don't take advantage of the current pricing that's currently available now, you're talking in the millions of dollars to replace public safety radios.
So explain that a little bit for the public, the necessity for the change with the radios and the expense of each one individually if we don't participate in this state program right now.
Sure. So nationwide, there's a push for a P25 protocol that's used on radios. It's to put it in simple terms, it's a specific language that's spoken over the radio waves for the kind of like a computer language. As that's been pushed forward, the state has in turn made a large push to push this along. Regionally, Carbon Emery and San Juan, over the last 4 to 5 years, we've been building our own infrastructure for digital radio communications, which is working great. With the ARPA funds that have come from a federal level, the state has made approximately $20 million available for communication purposes. So UCA, who is kind of the quasi department for this state for communications, they're using those ARPA monies to subsidize new radio replacements for public safety entities. So with that in mind, they've priced the subsidizing based on class of county. And so with us being in partnership with Emery and San Juan counties, they're a smaller county than us. And so they're getting even a better deal than what we are. Right now, our cost for the radio is going to be somewhere around the $700 to $800 range. If we don't participate in this state funding, that pricing jumps to approximately $5,000 to $6,000 per radio. And we're looking at a fair amount of radios to cover the county. So,
speak a little bit more to the now that we have our own backbone for VHF, how that can still be used and will be utilized not only by other departments, but our law enforcement and our emergency responders as well, so that they understand that we didn't just waste our money.
Yeah, absolutely. So the system that we built, it's a countywide system. We've used it for a number of reasons. The road shop, or the road department, was kind of our test bed over the last couple of years. They've had great success with it. They actually operate on this radio system from the end of 9 Mile, Clarion, up to Nuckwoodard in Schofield Valley, and down to I-70, doing gravel runs and things. So they're using it extensively. So they will continue to stay on it. The system that we are being coaxed into,
that's a nice word.
Is that a good word? That is for public safety purposes only. So by definition, fire, police, and medical would be able to use that. So our road department would not be allowed on that system, so we would still have to maintain our own system. Public utilities, even like city utilities, would be able to continue to use it.
Search and rescue.
Search and rescue, thank you. The ironic thing about search and rescue, they obviously get in some rough terrain. The P25 system that the state is building, it's the contract for the contractor that's building that system. They're contracted for a 95% coverage of populated areas. So they have no design purposes to cover 9 Mile, Nuckwoodard, backcountry areas that search and rescue would be going into. So that system that we've built will still be utilized and maintained for search and rescue mission operations and public utilities.
Thank you.
And there is a patch that can go between the existing and the new.
Correct.
Radios.
Well, we've engineered that so that the digital radio system that we've built still has a communication path into dispatch. So if search and rescue was out and about and needed to communicate directly into the public safety dispatch, they can go to the appropriate channel and do that.
And it's also important to note that the radios that we're purchasing are dual band, so with a switch of the radio, they can talk on either channel, both digital, the state system, and our system.
Yeah, and correct. The other advantage to the dual band radios, especially for fire departments, wildland forestry still operates on VHF because of the mountainland terrain, and so those guys would be able to still take their radios out and communicate with BLM and Forest Service on wildland operations.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
I don't have any questions, and I think I'm comfortable I don't see a real disadvantage to a long-term lease. We lose a little income from it, but coming up with enough money to make this new radio purchase would be a challenge. So I think it's, in my mind, it's wise to maybe go with that 50-year lease.
Do they have time to have a longer discussion on this before a decision's made?
If I could, this doesn't decide the contract. Again, this is just deciding the terms that are being placed into the contract. So that contract would have to again come back to the commission for approval. So if that gives you a comfort level. One other thing I might notice, this tower predates my time at the county. So it's been there at least 20 years. So it's built for a long time.
Did you have a concern with that, Seth? Or?
I think if one of the main deciding factors is funding for the new radio system, I think there's other sources to pay for that. So I mean, it sounds like I understand it's over 50 or 100 years, but I mean, there's a pretty big dollar difference there. And if that's your only or biggest reason for deciding that, might be worth just more discussion.
It might be good to get an accountant, unless maybe you know the difference in the amounts. So I have no idea, 12,000 for 40 years, how it stacks up against 248,000 for 50 years.
Well, and it escalates every 5 years of 15%.
Right, so I don't know how that.
So even without the escalation, it sounds like 480,000 for 40 years, or how much for 50 was the upfront amount?
380, I think.
50 years was 248.
So yes, there's a substantial dollar amount difference there. So
there's not I guess the only time element here is committing to the radio purchases with the state program.
correct. Your contract date is not under pressure at this point. It's the only pressure that I would perceive is taking advantage of the subsidized program for the radios.
Well, I like Seth's idea then to let's explore it a little bit and bring it back and make a decision.
Good. So just a motion to table and gather more information? I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. It's good discussion. Item number 5 is the consideration and possible approval of the updated Carbon County dress code and personal hygiene policy. Kelly, come up and address that. That wasn't a pun in address. Sorry.
I like your dad jokes, but
Meow meow.
you're being really punny. Okay, so in your binders, there are 3 different policies. The first one just shows the current Carbon County dress code policy, which is just clothes. It doesn't really state anything else. So after having conversations with some employees and different things, we've decided to update. So the next sheet is the one that Courtney and I put together. We sent it to Scott Crook because he had done our original policies. He sent over his red line suggestions. So we took those into consideration, basically just adopted everything that he said. And so the last one is the final policy that we're looking to approve, which is the Carbon County dress code and personal hygiene policy. The personal hygiene wasn't added before. We want to make sure that people come to work with clean, whether in your uniforms or just clothing, make sure they fit appropriately. We don't want any inappropriate words or clothing, no political parties that we're voting for or anything like that. On the second page of this policy is more just to make sure we are being proper and professional. We're representing the county well. So maintaining personal cleanliness by bathing regularly, oral hygiene, using deodorant, and then minimizing the heavy scented lotions, perfumes, colognes, things like that. Also on that second page, we did put in there that is, it is within the supervisor's discretion to send an employee home without pay to change if they arrive to work, and what is deemed to be inappropriate. So that's just a little part that we added. So far, we haven't had any issues. It's just people bringing up concerns about things. And one of the top things on here is shorts, which we do have employees who do wear shorts when they're working out in the field. So for those departments like GIS, when they're out there, we've allowed IT, the recreation department. If I remember correctly, EMS can wear shorts. So just little things like that. If they're appropriate, of course, we don't want short shorts out there, but so that's all. I'm just asking for approval of the new dress code and personal hygiene policy.
Thank you. Appreciate you
No problem.
presenting that. Any comments or?
I don't have any questions. I think everything fits in line with our goals of how we want to operate here.
I would agree.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the dress code and personal hygiene.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes. Thank you. Item number 6 is the consideration and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding between Carbon County and the Department of Interior, Bureau of Land Management for the development of the Programmatic Environmental Impact Statement and associated resource management plan and amendments for utility scale solar energy development on public lands. Mr. Thorne, would you like to address that?
So this MOU is with Bureau of Land Management. What they're kind of looking at is being able to put more solar on BLM grounds. They have to amend the resource management plans within the western states in order to do that. And so as a county, we can be a cooperating agency to be able to put in input for these plans as they move forward. So this is agreement to work with them. They'll be the lead agency, and we'll be able to make comments on any of the proposals that they're looking at doing to allow more solar to be on BLM ground.
I think it's important for us to be part of this, so that, again, we just had Department of Ag here, so that we have or we're at least in the conversation about what lands are good for solar and what lands we should keep in agricultural use for grazing and different things. I think there's room for both. Some lands have higher yield for cattle grazing, and some have very little. So I think being part of that, and also making sure that, again, the solar is being treated the same way as other types or uses of the land, similar to coal mines or other uses that are on our public lands.
Yeah, and that's a good point. There's a lot of ground that BLM has that can be used for solar rather than using up other private lands that's available. But right now, it's difficult to put on a solar field on a BLM ground. Just to put in the power line for the one that's here to the substation that went across a little bit of BLM ground, that took them almost a year to put in a power line that was less than a mile to get it to the substation in order to get the power off of private ground to a substation. So if they can do something to expedite this process and they can open up some of that ground, that could be beneficial to some of our private property owners where they don't want to use solar on their ground. It can go somewhere else and not take up land that can be used for other uses.
Yeah, one bonus too, if a solar field was built on federal ground here, there would be a higher tax paid for the personal property from the company that actually puts the solar project in. So I think having input along the way, it's maybe an extra bonus from the Biden administration of pushing this idea of trying to use federal lands for some of these renewable projects where that's been difficult in the past.
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion that we enter into this memorandum of understanding between the Department of Interior, the Bureau of Land Management, and Carbon County as a cooperating agency for the development of the Programmatic Environmental Impact Statement and associated resource management plan amendments for utility scale solar energy development on public lands.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd. Item number 7 is consideration and possible approval of the content partnership agreement between the Carbon County Office of Tourism and Andy, and is it Laur?
Laur, I think.
Content creator. Shani,
Yeah.
address that for us?
You bet. So this is an agreement that we have to hire some vloggers, also known as content creators, to highlight the roundabout. So they will be highlighting the 180-mile loop around the region and all of the major stopping points, which includes our museums, our golf courses, and some camping spots. So it's a 3-day contract, and Tina's been working extensively with this group. I've been in the loop a little bit, but we're excited to highlight these assets and work with these two. They're very excited to come to the area. They've asked a lot of questions. And again, it's really just to push that roundabout out even more. So.
No questions?
I don't have a questions. I think it's a good opportunity for us to really market the roundabout a little better, get the content that we need to drive more excitement about it.
Exactly.
I'll make them. Go ahead.
Sorry, before you make that motion, the dollars, where do they come from? Just
Advertising account.
so through tourism?
Through
dollars?
tourism dollars, correct.
Okay,
Yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's a good question. I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement the agreement with content partnership agreement between Carbon County Office of Tourism and Andy and Laur.
I think it's Laur.
Laur.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'll hang tight. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the review and possible approval of extending the marketing agreement with Hub Collective Limited from May 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
So in conversations that Tina and I have had, including Casey, we would really like to extend our contract with our ad agency, Hub Collective, until the end of December. So December 31st, 2023. And the primary reason of doing this is to be on the same fiscal year as the county. It would be really helpful to be on the same fiscal year. So that was the reasoning behind it, but we did get an agreement back, with a reduced amount that we'll have to pay because it's 8-9 months from now until December. Sent it over to Lynn, got her feedback, made some changes and adjustments. So that's the primary goal. We did get a new contract in from them because their contract expires this month, and the amount that they asked for was quite a bit more than we've paid in the past, which we expected. So we will be RFQing, request for
Qualifications.
We will be sending those out in October. But until then, we'd really like to continue working with these guys. They're amazing. They do great work. So.
No questions. I'll make the motion that we approve extending the marketing agreement with Hub Collective from May 1st, 2023 to December 31st of 2023.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Great, thank you.
Shani.
Thanks, Shani.
Item number 9 is the recommendation from the Tax Advisory Board to start an RFP/RFQ process to hire a public lands consultant to create an outdoor recreation plan. Mayor Lenise Peterman.
Hi, I'm here representing the Tax Advisory Board, which I chair for the county. And we believe it's a strategic move to begin an RFP to secure a public lands consultant to begin to move forward on our trails. What was our trails committee, kind of the next steps, and how to bring together all of the outdoor recreation into a strategic plan so we can begin to move some efforts forward on behalf of all the different types of recreation we have available here in Carbon.
After talking with UDOT today, I wonder if we could amend this just a little bit and add, our as well as the trails outdoor recreation plan, also do an active transportation plan. And the active transportation would be how to connect our communities and even different venues for inside the community to other types of transportation other than vehicles. So like biking, hiking, things like that. There is some money coming from UDOT. A significant amount that will go towards building out that infrastructure, and it may be a way for us. Our Trails Committee was trying to connect Price Walkway to the Helper Walkway, and this may be a way that we can. In order for us to go after any of that funding, we have to have an active transportation plan. So this may be a way that we can get that plan as well as our outdoor rec plan, and be able to go after some of these funding sources.
I think on behalf of the board, they would be supportive of such a motion to amend that to include an active transportation plan.
Okay.
So.
I'm good with that.
That is your motion.
That'll be my motion then.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Motion
right, thank
passes.
you.
Thank you. You're going to hang around for a little bit too?
I am.
Okay. Recommendations from the Tax Advisory Board to spend up to $5,000 to purchase a smaller visitor digital kiosk. Mayor Peterman.
Yes, so the Tax Advisory Board has been working closely with Carbon County IT on the creation of digital kiosks. And they finally have a nice work product. They actually have one that's installed at the Prehistoric Museum. They've identified 4 other locations that they would like to install a digital kiosk. And the beautiful thing is it will give us data and tracking points, which we don't have a really great handle on at this moment. So we thought it best to pilot it through 4 different locations that expressed interest, museums, I think the RV park, and I've forgotten the other one.
Hotels?
It was a hotel. I don't remember which one. But the idea being, if we get good traction and good feedback, we could expand the program. And we have the budget to accomplish this. So we were comfortable with the spend. And it can be maintained and updated from Carbon County. People won't be out in the field having to do anything. It's a flip of a switch for them to update or troubleshoot anything in any of the locations that have been selected.
And again, the dollars come from the transit room tax from
Yes.
visitors coming into the area.
Yes, sir.
Just to speak a little bit to the kiosks, they're very interactive and very useful. It pulls up QR codes, so if you want to go down 9 Mile, it'll pull up the QR code. You scan it right there at the kiosk, and it gives you that driving map and the tour down 9 Mile Canyon. There's a lot of things that and it has links to all of the city's pages as well. So all the city attractions and different things, it's interactive throughout the entire community. I think they're really good. I think the IT department did a great job putting it together.
They really did. So we're excited to see them implemented, and I think we'll see some good usage, and it'll be a good way to gauge expanding that program.
Any other questions? No. I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the Tax Advisory Board to spend $5,000 to purchase small visitor digital kiosks.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mayor, we should have just gave you a seat up here. Item number 11 is the recommendation from the Tax Advisory Board to sponsor the True Country PRCA Pro Rodeo for $2,000.
So we've changed our strategy as the Tax Advisory Board in what we're funding and have been trying to move away from event funding where we see a more strategic return on investment through infrastructure projects, wayfinding, public murals, those types of things. However, we did think it was important to support the rodeo and wanted to bring that recommendation before the commission. So right before the meeting, I was informed there may be some changes with the rodeo. They're looking to fund something. I don't know that it's the PRCA Pro Rodeo. They were talking about doing some other things, and we would request the funding be allocated. However, if it's not expended, we can return it back to the county. They've kind of lost some traction, I'm gathering. I just heard that an hour ago, so.
So as we met with so this is all in conjunction with the county fair that some of the employees and some of the people in the community have expressed some desire to bring the county fair back. Part of the county fair that they thought would be really good was to have the rodeo. They entered conversations with a pro rodeo circuit. And as they did so, and as they looked at the market, there are 6 other larger pro rodeos that are happening at the same time, and the purse or the winning prizes for the rodeos wouldn't be comparable to those of other rodeos throughout the state, and they didn't feel like they could attract enough participants. So you might have 2 bull riders and a bareback rider and a handful of barrel racers, and so they felt that they should look at other options, and so they are looking at a potential, there's and I can't remember what they called it, but the cowboy action shooters where they shoot the balloons, Mountain Thunder, thank you, where they shoot the balloons in a certain pattern, and see if that could draw a crowd. They were also looking at maybe a bulls only event and or a bullfighting circuit that travels around as well. So they're looking at some other options to bring in as part of the fair. So if the tax advisory board is okay, I think there probably ought to be some more communication between all of us to see if the events that they're bringing in are worth spending some tax advisory board money on, and then we can approve them here, or we can approve the amount pending the approval of the tax advisory board, however
Sure.
you'd like to move forward.
We don't mean to preclude any event support. We were just trying to move away from the continual event support, if that makes sense, the year over year, trying to get organizations to mature and do some different things. So the board was strongly supported this particular ask, and we had set the system up so that in the case an event did show up that we thought was worth tax dollar support, that we would bring it before you all and let you make that final call.
And I think there's still some opportunity to bring people from outside the community. They have a motocross race that's happening at the same time as part of the fair. And then if they have 1 or 2 of these other events, they would bring people from outside the community as well. And if it's marketed properly, I think all of this $2,000 would be for outside marketing to try and draw crowds to come watch those events. So I think there's still an opportunity there.
Yeah, but is it time sensitive to approve the money? I think we're in agreement to do it. Maybe they need to finalize what their plans are, or I'm good either way.
I don't know what the time.
I would recommend allocating and then working with the group, determining, what they're doing so that if they need the money, they have access to it. And then if they don't, no harm, no foul, basically.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Tax Advisory Board to sponsor events for the fair
Okay.
up to $2,000.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.